Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something straight from the heart. There comes a moment in your life when you got to stop looking back. You got to stop wondering what went wrong, why it happened, or whether it was your fault. Because let's get real. Some people were only meant to come into your life to teach you a lesson, not to stay forever. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you today about something we all wrestle with at some point in our lives. Closure. That word gets thrown around like it's some magical key to healing, like it's the thing you absolutely need before you can move forward. But let me tell you something that life taught me the hard way. You don't need closure to move on. You need peace of mind. You need to stop waiting for a conversation, an apology, an explanation, or a moment of clarity that may never come. See, some people walk out of your life and leave you standing there with a heart full of questions. Why did he do that? Wasn't I enough? Did I mess this up? And you replay everything trying to figure it out like it's a puzzle. You stay stuck on what if, and maybe if I'd said this or if I'd done that. But here's what I want you to understand. Some doors close without answers, and that's okay. You don't need a why to move forward. You need a decision. That decision starts with accepting that some people simply don't deserve a second chance to hurt you. If he left, if he ghosted you, if he betrayed your trust, if he couldn't see your worth, why in the world are you still holding space for him in your mind, in your heart, in your spirit? You think closure means he has to explain himself. But real closure is when you say, real closure is when you wake up and realize you don't need him to make peace with your past. You can do that all by yourself. You can stand in front of a mirror, look yourself dead in the eyes and say, this ends here. My tears end here. My waiting ends here. My suffering ends here. I may not know why he did what he did, but I know I'm not going to let it destroy me. That, my friend, is peace of mind. That is strength. That is what it means to choose yourself. The truth is, some people will never own their wrongs. Some people will rewrite the story in their heads so they don't have to feel guilty. He might walk around like you meant nothing. He might move on like you never existed. And if you're waiting for him to come back and say, I'm sorry, you might be waiting forever. Meanwhile, your life is passing by. Opportunities are slipping through your fingers while you're sitting in the wreckage of something that wasn't meant to last. You want peace? Stop tying your healing to his apology. Stop giving him that kind of power. Stop thinking that if he just explains himself, then you can finally breathe. No. You can breathe now. You can heal now. You can let go now. Because peace doesn't come from someone else. It comes from you deciding that your sanity, your joy, your future is too valuable to be left in someone else's hands. I'm telling you this because I've lived it. I begged for closure before. I sat around hoping they'd call, hoping they'd explain, hoping they'd give me something to help make sense of the chaos they left behind. But you know what? Most times they never do. And I realized I was wasting my energy on someone who already moved on. So I had to learn to close the door myself. I had to say, I may not get the ending I wanted, but I'm writing a new chapter whether he shows up or not. Let him go. Let the silence be your answer. Let your peace be your revenge. You don't need closure. You don't need to hear, I'm sorry. You don't need to understand everything that happened. What you need is to take your heart back, get your mind right, and walk into the rest of your life like you've already won. Because the truth is you have. You ever read a book, finish a chapter, and then go back and keep rereading the same few pages over and over again? Now imagine doing that in your life. That's exactly what some people do when it comes to a relationship that's already ended. God helped them close that chapter, but they keep reopening it through memories, through messages, through stalking social media, through letting that person come back every time he gets bored or lonely. And let me tell you, that kind of behavior doesn't keep you connected. It keeps you stuck. There's a reason it ended. There's a reason he's not in your life anymore. Maybe he didn't treat you right. Maybe he took your love for granted. Maybe he didn't value your worth. Whatever the reason, the chapter ended because it was supposed to. And if you keep turning back to it, all you're doing is reopening a wound that had already started to heal. You're the one holding yourself in pain, not him. You're the one reliving the past, not him. You can't walk into your next blessing when you're still clinging to something that broke you. Sometimes God removes people from your life for your protection, not because he's punishing you, but because he's saving you. He saw things you didn't see. He heard conversations you weren't part of. He knows that man's heart better than you ever could. And when he pulled him out of your life, that was mercy, that was grace, that was love. But every time you go back, every time you answer his text, every time you meet up just to talk, every time you replay those old memories like they still real, you're basically telling God, I don't trust you. I'd rather hold on to this than step into what you got planned for me. And don't get it twisted, he may not even want you back for the right reasons. Sometimes a man doesn't come back because he loves you. He comes back because he sees you moving on. He sees your glow coming back, your confidence returning, your life being rebuilt, and he wants to pull you back just enough to keep you small, to keep you available, to make sure you never fully leave him behind. That's not love. That's control. That's ego. That's selfishness dressed up as romance. Don't fall for it. When God closes a door, stop standing at it knocking. Stop texting him hoping he opens it again. Stop replaying the memories like they'll change the outcome. They won't. That chapter is over. That version of you that loved him so much, she learned, she cried, she grew. She deserves to be free. And you can't be free if you're still carrying pieces of a man who let you down. Stop scrolling through his pictures. Stop imagining what could have been. What could have been is not your future. What's ahead of you is bigger, better, and built on real love, not confusion, not games, not temporary emotions. You have to believe that letting go is not loss, it's alignment. It's power. It's you finally saying, I deserve peace more than I crave a reply. I deserve love that doesn't make me question my worth. That chapter in your life already served its purpose. It taught you, it stretched you, it revealed who you were and who he wasn't, but it's not your whole story. So stop rereading the same painful paragraph and expecting it to turn into a fairy tale. The fairy tale comes when you move on, when you trust God, when you stop reopening the door to what he already removed. And when you finally let that chapter stay closed, you'll feel it in your spirit. Peace will come. Joy will return. Your energy will rise. Because that's what happens when you stop dragging yesterday into today. You make room for tomorrow. You make room for everything God has been waiting to give you. One of the biggest mistakes people make is letting what happened back then ruin what can happen right now. You can't build a better life if you keep dragging around the pain, the regret, the bitterness, and the weight of something that's already behind you. Your past might have shaped you, but it doesn't get to define you unless you hand over that power. And the truth is, too many people are letting one bad relationship, one heartbreak, one betrayal turn them into someone cold, guarded, and afraid to try again. I get it. When someone hurts you deeply, it leaves a mark. You gave your heart to somebody who didn't know how to handle it. You trusted someone who didn't know how to be loyal. You believed in someone who didn't believe in you. And now you're walking around like you got to protect yourself from ever feeling that again. But protecting yourself shouldn't mean blocking your blessings. It shouldn't mean pushing away good people just because somebody toxic got in first. You're not the same person you were back then. You're wiser now, stronger now. So don't punish your future for a mistake that already taught you what you needed to learn. You've got to stop letting that pain sit in the driver's seat of your life. Every time you say, I'll never love again, I don't trust anybody, they're all the same, you're not guarding yourself. You're imprisoning yourself. You're allowing the person who hurt you to still have control over your heart, even though they're not around anymore. That's like giving a thief the keys to your house after they already robbed you once. Why would you do that? Why would you let the person who caused you so much pain keep stealing from your peace, your joy, your hope? You have dreams to chase. You have love to give. You have things God still wants to do in your life. But he can't bless you with the future you deserve if you keep holding on to the pain you haven't released. That man who broke you, he's not worth your future. That betrayal that left you doubting yourself, it's not worth delaying your growth. That chapter in your life, it's over now. The longer you stare at a closed door, the more you'll miss what's trying to walk in. Your past only has the power you give it. You can't go back and change it. You can't erase what happened, but you can choose how you respond to it now. You can choose to let it make you better, not bitter. You can choose to let it push you forward instead of holding you down. You can choose to believe that just because someone didn't love you the way you deserved doesn't mean you aren't worthy of real love. You owe it to yourself to stop carrying pain that doesn't belong in your future. If you don't heal from it, you'll bleed on people who didn't hurt you. You destroy chances at happiness before they even begin. You build walls so high that nobody can get through, not even the ones sent to help you heal. Don't let one chapter in your life write the whole book. You've still got pages to fill with joy, growth, love, and redemption. But you've got to stop rereading the ones that hurt you. There's freedom in releasing it. There's power in saying, this happened to me, but it's not going to control me anymore. That's when real growth begins. That's when your future starts taking shape, not around your wounds, but around your healing. The pain had its moment. Now it's time for your peace to have its turn. Because your past might be a part of your story, but it was never supposed to be the whole story. The rest is still unwritten and it's yours to shape without fear, without bitterness, and without dragging old pain into new beginnings. There's nothing more painful than giving your heart to someone who looks at it like it's ordinary. You love them deeply, you show up, you stay loyal, and still somehow they don't treat you like you're enough. You start wondering, what's wrong with me? But let me tell you something that'll set you free if you let it sink in. Your worth isn't defined by someone who couldn't see it. Just because he didn't know how to love you doesn't mean you weren't lovable. Just because he walked away doesn't mean you weren't worthy of staying for. You don't lose value just because someone couldn't recognize it. Too many people are walking around with broken confidence because they let the wrong person's opinion become their reflection. You let a man's silence make you question your voice. You let his absence make you feel like you weren't enough. But you were enough. You were more than enough. He just wasn't capable of receiving what you had to give. Don't ever let someone's inability to love you make you forget how valuable your love really is. Sometimes people are blind to beauty. Sometimes they're not ready for someone real. They think they want love, but when it shows up with depth and truth and commitment, they get scared. So they pull back, they make excuses, they leave. And if you don't know your worth, you'll start blaming yourself for what they couldn't handle. You'll start shrinking, doubting, and changing just to fit into a space that was never meant for you. But the problem was never you, it was his vision. He couldn't see you clearly because his eyes were too busy chasing things that sparkle instead of things that shine from within. Your worth isn't based on who stays or who goes. It's based on who you are. Your kindness, your loyalty, your strength, your heart. Those things don't lose value just because someone didn't know how to treat them right. Gold is still gold, even if someone throws it in the dirt. A diamond doesn't stop being a diamond just because somebody walked past it and chose a piece of glass. That's not a reflection of the diamond. That's a reflection of the person making the choice. If he couldn't see your value, don't spend your life trying to convince him. That's not your job. Your job is to walk away knowing that nothing about your light was dimmed by his blindness. Stop measuring yourself by someone who didn't know how to measure love. Stop tying your self-esteem to someone who didn't even love themselves fully. You can't make someone appreciate what they're not mature enough to understand. Sometimes rejection is protection. Sometimes being overlooked is God's way of steering you towards someone who will see you for everything you are and never hesitate to love you the right way. But before that person can show up, you've got to believe in your own worth first. You've got to stop attaching your value to who left, who stayed, or who failed to show up. Your worth is not negotiable. It's not up for discussion, and it sure as hell isn't tied to someone who had the chance to love you and chose not to. You don't need to be chosen by the wrong person to feel whole. You don't need to be validated by someone who couldn't even understand the gift they had. You were the blessing, you were the peace, you were the kind of love people pray for. Just because he let it slip through his hands doesn't mean you weren't enough. It just means he wasn't ready. And maybe, just maybe, you were never meant to be his lesson. You were meant to be someone else's answered prayer. So stop questioning your worth. It's already been proven. Now it's time you believe it. Healing ain't just about feeling better. It's not just about moving on or pretending you're over it. Real healing shows up in the moment when your pain gets pushed and you don't react the way you used to. It's when the same kind of person who once broke your heart tries to step to you again, and this time you don't even flinch. It's when someone lies to your face and instead of losing your mind, you just smile because you've learned the difference between chaos and peace. Healing means not reacting when you're triggered. It means you've done the work, you've faced the wounds, and you've grown past the place that used to control you. We all get triggered. Someone says something that reminds you of the way he used to talk down to you. You hear that same tone, that same arrogance, and it brings back every moment you stayed quiet, every night you cried, every time you begged for respect. And in that moment, Everything in you wants to lash out. You want to defend yourself. You want to prove you're not the same woman he once thought he could play. But healing, real healing, is when you feel that fire rising and you choose not to let it consume you. You don't need to prove anything anymore. Not to him, not to anyone. That part of your life is over. The person who used to react, to argue, to break down every time she was triggered, that woman grew up. She got tired of being dragged back into old battles that never led anywhere. She realized her peace was too expensive to spend on people who weren't worth the fight. That's healing. Sometimes you'll be tested just to see if you still bleed from the same place. Someone will show up who talks like him, walks like him, even manipulates like him, but you'll know you've healed when you don't even engage, when you don't give them your energy, when you don't explain, don't defend, don't even respond, because silence is a form of strength. It's a sign that you're protecting yourself, not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know what's not worth your spirit anymore. Healing is not about revenge. It's not about making him see what he lost. It's about you finally seeing what you gained. You gained clarity, you gained self-respect, you gained the ability to choose peace over drama, dignity over attention, growth over revenge. That's real power. Not letting someone who once broke you have the ability to pull you back to that place. You've climbed too far to go back there now. When someone triggers you and you don't respond the way you used to, that's when you know the healing is real. Not because you numb, not because you forgot what happened, but because you've learned to respond with wisdom instead of wounds. You're not running from the pain, you've just stopped living in it. You have to be proud of yourself for that. That kind of growth isn't loud, it's quiet, it's internal. It happens behind closed doors where nobody sees. The tears, the journaling, the praying, the nights you talked yourself out of sending that message. It happens in the moments you walk away when your old self would have stayed. That's healing. That's you becoming better, not bitter. There will always be moments that try to drag you back into that old version of yourself. But you've got to remember who you are now. You've been through the fire. You've cried your way into strength. You've been broken down and rebuilt from the inside out. And now you get to walk through life knowing that not everything deserves your reaction. Not every trigger deserves your attention. Not every insult deserves a reply. That's not weakness. That's mastery. That's what healing really looks like. People will try to make you believe that staying is strength, that holding on is what proves your loyalty, that if you walk away, you're giving up. But let me tell you the truth. Walking away is not weakness. It's power, real power. Because it takes strength to let go of what you once prayed for. It takes courage to turn your back on someone you still have feelings for. It takes a healed mind and a bold spirit to say, I love you, but I love myself more. You don't walk away because you're heartless. You walk away because you're finally listening to your heart. That man, that relationship, that situation, it might have once felt like your whole world, but if it started making you question your worth, if it broke your peace, if it drained you instead of pouring into you, then leaving it behind is not weakness, it's wisdom. You're not quitting, you're choosing to protect what's left of your soul. See, there's power in knowing when enough is enough. There's power in choosing peace over patterns. Some people will keep showing you who they are, and every time you'll make excuses. He's just going through something. He'll change. Maybe if I love him harder. But at some point, you've got to ask yourself, how much more of yourself do you have to lose to save someone who doesn't even see what they're costing you? Walking away means you've learned the value of your love. It means you understand that your presence is a gift, not a favor. You're not desperate. You're not replaceable. You're not asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong person, because the right one would have stepped up, not stepped out. The right one would have fought for you, not against you. And when you walk away, you're telling the universe, I know what I deserve. You're opening up space in your life for what's real, what's healthy, what's meant. That takes guts. It takes grace. It takes a woman who's done playing small just to make someone else comfortable. You gave your time, you gave your energy, you gave your best, and when it still wasn't enough for him to choose you fully, that's when you choose yourself. Some folks will try to guilt you for walking away. They'll call you cold. They'll say you're giving up too fast. But those same people were never there during the sleepless nights, during the silent tears, during the moments you prayed for signs and kept getting red flags instead. They didn't live it, you did, so don't let people judge your decision when they didn't feel your pain. Walking away is how you teach people how to treat you. It's how you say, I refuse to be an option. I refuse to beg for the bare minimum. I refuse to stay where I'm not respected, appreciated, or prioritized. That's not weakness, that's elevation. That's growth, that's power. And the day you walk away is the day you start coming back home to yourself. You begin to rediscover your smile, your peace, your purpose. You begin to realize you were never too much, you was just too little. You begin to understand that love shouldn't hurt more than it heals. And you start attracting people who see you clearly because you finally stopped settling for those who only saw you when it was convenient. So don't let anyone shame you for walking away. That's a bold move. That's a queen move. That's what happens when you stop negotiating with dysfunction and start demanding your peace. You're not broken. You're not bitter. You're just done explaining why you deserve better. And when you reach that point, baby, that's where the real healing starts. That's when the glow hits different. Because nothing is more beautiful than a woman who chose herself and never looked back.